Hey there, inspired soul. Welcome to the Divinely Inspired Living podcast. I'm your host, Erin Barcelos, angel intuitive, spiritual life coach, and manifestation expert. I'm so glad you're here. Together, we're going to be tuning into the universe, radiating the highest version of ourselves, and manifesting a life beyond our wildest dreams. It's my mission to support you in reclaiming your gifts from ancient lifetimes, developing a strong relationship with your angels and spirit guides, and living life in passionate co-creation with the love of the universe. Because here's the thing, at the end of our lives, this time around, we want to be able to say one thing: mission accomplished. Thank you so much for being here. Let's dive deep. Hey, my friend. Thank you for joining me for this Divinely Inspired Living podcast episode. I am so glad that you're here with me, and I am taking a deep breath right now to just center in, to opening my heart to you as we create this sacred time and space of us being together right here and right now. Man, so I'm not sure if you caught the last episode, episode 7, No Such Thing as Accidents, part 2. But I did promise that during this episode today, I was going to dive deeper into my experience of intense transformation over the last couple months, specifically all of the miracles and spiritual unfoldings that took place from the recent car accident I was in, and from my belief as a direct result of doing my inner work in this process. So I really just want to share this with you, unpack it with you, really shed light onto all of the layers that experience involved and the miracles that took place. And, coming out the other side of the intensity of this experience, which, it wasn't just a one-day thing. Actually, there are still aspects of it that are awaiting completion and loose ends to be tied. So, we're looking at a process that's going on probably about 3 months duration of all of these layers, all of these details. And at first glance, having this experience was it felt like having my world dumped upside down. The universe just picked me up and dumped me on my head, and all of these things changed and broke apart, and there was so much uncertainty and intensity regarding this process that for there to also be so many miracles and so many blessings within it is really a straight up miracle in itself. And one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to peel the curtains back and give you a deeper look into my experience is because, in my opinion, it is just such an awesome illustration of manifestation in action. Right? So manifestation is all about really stepping into our power as spiritual beings to draw into our reality that which we desire, or circumstances in our lives that bring so much happiness, joy, prosperity, and all the things that we really want to manifest in a positive way, right? So manifestation. And I think a lot of times when we think of manifestation, or when we approach manifestation, and even in a lot of ways that I teach manifestation, there's such a positive spiritual light to the concept of manifestation, and manifestation techniques involve things like visualization, saying affirmations, writing out intentions, sending out those intentions into the universe, calling them into reality. So, it's just like a high vibe, positive experience all the way around. Yet, what happens when we are in experiences in life that aren't so positive? What happens when we're experiencing something in our life where we're in a rock, like we're in between a rock and a hard place? How does manifestation work then? And so I'm going to go into detail about my experience, and I just thought I really wanted to share that with you because of how it illustrates a whole new take on manifestation. And really, when I explore manifestation myself and teach about manifestation, to me, it's all about connecting with our higher power and surrendering to our higher power so that our highest truth, highest potential, and highest plan that is God's will unfolds in whatever circumstance is at play. Okay, so first I'm going to share about this experience, a little bit what it was like going through it. So, and again, you can check back to episode 3, There's No Such Thing as Accidents, part 1, and There's No Such Thing as Accidents, part 2, which is episode 7. But basically, in a recap, I was not feeling in a super great place that day, and I was really seeking some guidance. So I was asking the universe for guidance, like, hey, I feel like a change is coming. Please guide me in whatever actions I need to take. And so to receive that guidance, basically, I hopped in the car and decided to go for a drive, hoping that my drive would bring me the answers that I was looking for. And I was following my intuition at every intersection I was coming to, guiding me as to which direction to go. Should I go left, right, straight? And I was basically following my intuition all around town for a good 45 minutes until all of a sudden, this specific intersection that I came to led me to a T-bone collision. Whew. Walking away from the scene that day was just so full of so many emotions, and there were so many blessings that unfolded. I felt really safe and held by the angels during that collision because it totally could have turned out in a way that was that car accident could have easily taken my life, to be completely honest. And I walked away with hardly any injuries. I felt completely held in the arms of angels. It's a miracle that I was okay. It was a miracle that my dog was okay. It was a miracle that the other person was okay. And there were a lot of personnel at the scene, which just helped the situation to unfold in a way where I felt supported. Now, leaving the scene and moving into the aftermath of that experience was really stressful. And it was really stressful in a way that, my car was really badly damaged to the point where it wasn't really drivable. My Jeep was really, really special to me because a good friend of mine gave it to me when he was on his deathbed. I wasn't sure whether or not my car was going to make it. And there was also this piece around insurance that really left it uncertain whether or not insurance was going to cover the damage to my vehicle. I also didn't know if my vehicle was going to survive the accident or not. Okay, so I was left in a situation where it felt like such an uncomfortable waiting period in the period of waiting for things to unfold. And it was a situation like I'm waiting for things to unfold, not knowing how they're going to unfold, and they're either going to unfold in my favor or they're going to unfold in a way in which I'm completely Of course, there was a strong part of my mind that knew that whatever unfolded, it was going to be okay, and that all the details would work itself out one way or another, and that I would be fine. And then there was this other part of my fear-based mind that was completely freaking out and going to worst-case scenarios. Can you relate to that? It really is like a battle between the higher part of our mind and the ego part of our mind. So I definitely had that experience going on. And, I feel like it was very fortunate that I was following my divine guidance that led me to that collision. Because I was following my intuition and specifically asking for divine guidance leading up to that car accident, I knew that whatever the outcomes of this situation were going to be, I knew they were orchestrated by the divine. I knew that the universe had its hand in this experience. And as uncomfortable as the situation was, it was my job to trust it. And to trust it no matter what the outcomes would be. Okay, so basically the outcome of this situation was dependent upon the insurance party's investigation and who they found at fault for the accident. It wasn't super cut and dry. And there were pieces to the puzzle that needed to fall into place one piece at a time in order for these answers to be clear and definite. Like, there was 2 weeks spent waiting on a police report. And I was pretty much sweating bullets that whole time that the police report was being written, because depending on what it said, had a strong influence on how the rest of the situation was going to play out. Now, it's not like I had $30,000 sitting in the bank just awaiting for the opportunity to buy a new car. So the fact that it was very possible that I was going to walk away from this situation losing my vehicle and having to rely on future unknown conditions in order for them to be replaced. It was hard. It was hard. It was stressful. It was scary. And I went to all these places in my mind that were like, oh, I'm a failure. Here I am in this part in my life where like my hands are tied. I'm losing everything. I'm not able to get myself out of this situation. How did I get myself in this deep hole? There was a lot of that at play for me. Yet, at the same time, I just had to keep coming back to trust. I had to keep coming back to trust, surrendering into the universe. Now, I'm sure you can relate to being in extremely stressful situations where you're really fearful of worst case scenarios. And the anxiety that can take over can be completely paralyzing if you let it be, right? So the only way I was able to not have this anxiety be completely paralyzing was to literally spend every moment of every day breathing through it and reminding myself to trust. Breathing through it and reminding myself to surrender. Breathing through it and continuing to take step by step by step, one step at a time. Especially when I would step back and look at all the things that needed to take place in order for this situation to resolve, all those steps at once were completely overwhelming. So it's take a deep breath and focus on one step at a time, and then surrender into that uncomfortable waiting period while each step was in its process of basically sorting itself out. Okay, so the investigation is happening and it wasn't looking good for me. It was definitely seeming to lean toward the situation of I'd be walking away from this situation with a complete loss, not just a loss of my vehicle, but also a significant, basically inability to immediately take care of that loss. So at this time, I just kept praying. I just kept praying that this situation would unfold for the highest and best good of everyone involved. And as I prayed that prayer, that the situation would unfold for the highest and best good of everyone involved, that also came with it a feeling of acceptance. That if the universe were to orchestrate a situation where I was at a loss, I was willing to accept that if it was for the highest good. And I genuinely meant that within my own heart. Also, in my fantasies of going to worst case scenario, I allowed myself to be in complete acceptance of those worst case scenarios. I was willing to take responsibility in those ways. I was willing to have the outcome unfold in that way and to take on the hardship that it might bring me if that's what the universe wanted to orchestrate. Again, my faith was in the universe because I know the universe had its hand in that car accident. And so I just kept praying for the highest good of all, that things would unfold for the highest good of all, and surrendered to the universe completely in full acceptance of whatever the outcome would be. Now, at the time, I was doing daily lessons of A Course in Miracles, which is something I'm doing regularly this whole year. But at that time, specifically when I was awaiting for clear answers about that investigation, the daily lessons were along the lines of God is my strength. God is my source. And so I was doing these daily meditations in which I was actively really putting my faith and trust in God and calling God to be in the unfolding of the situation at hand. By the grace of God and a complete miracle, I got the phone call saying that the other driver's insurance company took 100% responsibility for the claim. And that meant that my vehicle and all of the details would be completely covered and taken care of. This was a huge freaking miracle. And honestly, I was astounded and in complete awe and gratitude. I did not expect it to go that way. It wasn't looking like it was going to go that way. And I got a letter in the mail from my insurance company saying the investigation was complete. They explained the reasons why, and what they had listed was completely mind-blowing. Like, what the heck happened for that to be the result? I have no idea. But there was like a straight up miracle that took place in the ethers, completely orchestrating this entire situation so that it felt like the divine bended the laws of human nature in order to orchestrate this profound miracle, which I absolutely graciously received. Not only that, but the unfolding of the rest of it included support for me to really go into a healing process. And what I mean by that is I got to experience about 15 massages as a result of this car accident, which completely aided in my healing process, in my recovery process, and with all of the things that happened in my life after the car accident really came in handy at a time in my life when I needed healing the most. I walked away from this situation abundant and taken care of. And I'm so, so, so grateful and owe it all to the miracles of divine orchestration that can only happen when we surrender and allow and have faith and have trust. And for me, it all comes down to a willingness to lay my life in the hands of the divine. For me, that means having a willingness that says, I trust in my higher power. I trust in the fires you are leading me to walk through. I know that these fires aid in my transformation, and that I dedicate every step of this journey to my personal evolution as a soul. I know that as I grow and evolve, it's not always easy, but it's what I choose because I want to keep growing higher and higher into love. And as we walk through these fires, it sheds back layers of ego. They shed back layers of fear. And when we truly can lean on the divine, like our life depends on it, that's the sweet spot where miracles occur. And that's what happened within this situation. Now, there's also a whole nother part of this that right around the time of having the clarity around the outcome of this, the insurance company's outcome, right as that was all coming into light, there was a whole nother piece that was starting to present itself. And that was a really, really strong connection with my friend Bill on the other side. Throughout this whole process, I started to feel his presence by my side on a regular and consistent basis. It was so nice and so comforting, especially because he was one of those people in my life that I always went to when I was in need of support or in need of a friend or really scared in my life. Bill would be one of the first people I would call and reach out to. And so to feel his presence by my side during this whole process was just incredible. So I started to feel his presence pretty consistently. And then I started to get the strong inkling that the Jeep wasn't going to make it. It's like I just knew. right? I was still like waiting to get to the official next step in this process to get it assessed. But before even getting it assessed, I was taking a really strong look at the Jeep, and I just knew. I knew the Jeep wasn't going to make it. It was like a little voice inside of me whispered, whether it was Bill or my angels or my intuition, I'm not sure, but I just knew it was time for the Jeep to go. There was definitely a part of me that was really already mourning the loss of the Jeep because it was Bill's Jeep, and driving Bill's Jeep made me feel like I was always driving around with my friend. And so to let go of the Jeep wasn't just like letting go of any car. It really was like letting go of this vehicle that was so, so, so special to me and was one of the last ties that connected me to my friend. Yet at the same time, there was this other voice inside that said, let it go. It's time for it to go. Let it go. And for me, that was like an inner strength and willingness to let the Jeep go with grace. So at this time, I remember this day specifically. I got the guidance, the inner guidance that said, it's time for the Jeep to go. And I was walking to work, feeling connected to my friend Bill, and all of a sudden, before I arrived to my destination, I heard a loud and clear voice saying, "Get a compass." Now, it's really funny because the big message for me from the car accident, from the universe, was a loud and clear message that said, go in a different direction. So to hear another message that said, get a compass, really related to that, like, hey, you need a compass, Erin, so that you can always move through life according to your inner guidance and your inner compass. So I got that message loud and clear, but it was also very clear that that message was literally talking about a new car. Get a compass. So as soon as I could, I Googled compass and was so pleasantly surprised to discover that a compass is a vehicle model made by Jeep. So right then and there, I knew the Jeep is going and a compass is coming in. And as I really look back at this entire situation in reflection, there are so many blessings that came out of this experience. There are also some challenging parts and a lot of grief, like I'm even feeling the grief of losing the Jeep right now. And I think that what brings up grief for me is, it wasn't just about a vehicle. It was about losing my friend in his death. And he was somebody who I got to be by his side in his death process, which was the biggest honor and privilege. And in his passing, he gave me that vehicle that allowed me to feel really close to him this whole time. And so as the Jeep left, it was kind of like experiencing a death. And in a huge way, experiencing Bill's death all over again. So I just want to own the part of me that even in this moment is completely embracing that grief and that mourning and that love that I have for my friend. And when I look back at this situation, I really feel like he also played a huge role in this, right? Okay, so Bill gave me this Jeep. He passed it along to me. And I really believe that one of the reasons why he gave it to me is because he wanted me to be safe and provided for in this Jeep. I mean, it was really funny because when I went to go be by his side when he was on his deathbed, my car that I was driving at the time completely took a shit and wasn't even able to get me there. So I found my way there regardless, and Bill was very moved to pass his Jeep along to me. I'm so grateful for it, and I have been all these years. And what's completely amazing is that I really believe that the Jeep saved my life that day of the car accident. I mean, that Jeep was a tank, and it had a 4-inch lift. So because the Jeep was so high and so durable and made of steel, that when I was T-boned by the other driver going like 50 miles an hour, striking me at the driver's side, like the car didn't even cave in on me at all. I was 100% safe and protected, and that Jeep saved me. So thank you, Jeep. The Jeep's name is Panzer. Thank you, Panzer. And thank you, Bill. And, I'm reminded that a couple weeks before the accident, my check engine light came on. And I ran the numbers and found out that my Jeep needed some work, and the work was going to cost like $3,000. So I was kind of like already in this place with the Jeep that was like, darn. It's going to start needing a lot of pricey work. All right, gonna have to do it. I never ever would have considered letting the Jeep go. But I also think that Bill had a hand in this from the other side. Like he was looking down, seeing that the Jeep was starting to really wear itself out, that it was going to start costing a lot of money. And I think he really wanted to get me a new, safe, reliable vehicle. I am also hoping, praying, and getting the guidance that it's in the cards for me to be a mother someday. And I feel like not only does Bill want me in a safe, reliable vehicle, not just for me, but also for my future unborn child. So it's so special to me to just really kind of like step back from this situation and truly feel the presence of my friend. I still feel him looking out for me. And I think he played a role in this situation to take the Jeep off my hands and exchange it for a safe, new, reliable, kid-friendly vehicle. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, angels. Thank you, Divine Mother, Father, God. Thank you, universe. Thank you for the miracles that took place over this experience. Thank you for the abundance that has transpired as a result. Thank you for the blessing. Thank you for the courage to walk